In today's video, we will be attempting to rebuild the Los Angeles Clippers with hopes of bringing the franchise their first championship. At the time of recording this, the Clippers are an abysmal 7-21 and are struggling to get their footing in a tight Western Conference. The cap-restricted Clippers have done little in the past few seasons except disappointing their fans time and time again. Although they've made the playoffs 8 of the last 10 seasons, they've always fallen short in one way or another. And this year seems no different at all. With Kawhi's off-court legal issues and the whole CP3 debacle, it seems that the Clippers are back to their self-destructive ways. I'm hoping that in today's episode we can fix that. Can Harden stay out of headlines and trade rumors for long enough to develop some chemistry, or will he fall short in the playoffs yet again? Maybe Kawhi captures his third NBA championship and solidifies his legacy.
Or maybe injuries end his season early.
Or maybe Ballmer and the front office have had enough with their two aging superstars and will move on entirely. Either way, in today's video, we will find our answers and I'll bring you along the way. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. So as I previously mentioned, our team basically orbits around these two aging superstars and Kawhi and Harden. We have a few serviceable guys like Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. who can play their role. And then we got new additions, John Collins, who essentially is an expiring contract, but still serves as a lob threat with James Harden off the pick and roll. And then we got Brook Lopez coming off the bench, who adds some spacing and some depth for us. Not having much flexibility, we'll probably shop what we can. More than likely, Harden and Kawhi will end the year as Clippers. We will probably try to add guys who play well with Harden, like good defenders and three-point shooters. And if we can acquire first-round picks on the way, we will certainly take that. But given we're well over the cap and don't have many first-round picks, I think this year is more than likely a bust. But either way, I'll go ahead and shop some guys around and we'll see what we can find. So here I am trying to acquire Darius Garland. Even though he's due $125 million over 3 years, next year I have so many expiring contracts that I might as well try to get some sort of asset. But here they throw in Lonzo Ball for Bradley Beal. I wanted to keep Bradley Beal just because he's a pretty cheap contract and good shot maker off the bench. But Lonzo Ball, he'll certainly have a role on our team, so I can't complain. We'll go ahead and take that deal. We'll go ahead and assess it at the trade deadline and see how he plays. Another move I end up making is for Draymond Green. Not a big fan of Derrick Jones, and Bogdanovich is an expiring contract. Draymond is also an expiring contract, so not much to lose. You gain a guy who knows how to play the game the right way. And while I'm still trading for guys on expiring deals, I'm still going for a win-now approach, and guys like Draymond Green and Darius Garland definitely help that. The last deal I end up making is a trade for a couple of our young guys for Clint Capella and a 29 first-round draft pick. He'll get some minutes off the bench, but you can't really turn down a first-round draft pick in our position. And that pretty much finalizes our lineup going into the season with a starting five of Garland, Harden, Kawhi, Draymond, and Zubac, with Clint Capella, Lonzo Ball, Brook Lopez coming off the bench. Plenty of old guys and injury-prone players, so hopefully throughout the season we can just stay healthy. Not super high hopes for this team, but if I could have an all-star on my team and make the playoffs, I'd be pretty happy. But I'm going to go ahead and sim to mid-season, and I'll check in with you then. After a 4-1 start, and because we traded a couple young guys, and because we sent Chris Paul home, we have to sign a guy in free agency. We end up going with Ben Simmons. I'm leaning into this redeem team with all these old guys on their last legs. Don't be surprised if I trade for Paul George and Klay Thompson in the future. Well, let's see how many games he can go before getting hurt. So we made it to the trade deadline. We're sitting at 41-9 right now through 50 games. First team in the league. We're playing fantastic. Our duo of Kawhi and Harden has been successful thus far. Kawhi leading the way, averaging 28 points, shooting 54% from the field. And we're getting that vintage Harden season that we wanted. He's averaging 26 and 8. And surprisingly, at 36 years old, he's shooting the ball really well. About 55% from the field and 43% from three on 8 attempts a game. Both guys actually play good enough to get all-star nods in a tough Western Conference. This is number 12 for James Harden and actually only number 7 for Kawhi Leonard. Hoping this means we'll be in discussions for All-NBA later on in the season. But of course the number one goal is just to stay healthy.
And the Garland experiment seems to be working. As a quick combo guard next to James Harden, doesn't need the ball in his hands much, averaging 24 points and 7 assists at midseason. And then our other pickups like Lonzo Ball and Clint Capella, they've been able to find a role off the bench. But the main pickup that's been looking well this season is Draymond. He's been averaging his typical triple-single, 5, 5, and 5, still getting a steal and a half a game and a block. With a new role and maybe a deflated ego, he's been playing super well for us, hasn't gotten hurt, and has been in the lineup ever since we got him. Around the deadline, we look at extending him. He's asking less than $10 million a year. And for a guy like Draymond, who's always going to be reliable and might end his career with us, we'll go ahead and extend him for a 2-year, $16 million contract. Regardless if he's in the starting lineup or off the bench next season, or even possibly a tradable asset, we'll lock him in for the next few years. Other than that, no other players are getting extended. James Harden is still on a player option. So even though we're number 1 in the league right now, we're still looking to move on from these 2 superstars. Hopefully we can make a deep playoff run. I'm going to go ahead and sim it to the end of the season, and I'll see you guys in a second. We finished the year strong with no injuries, going 64-18, first in the NBA, second to the Knicks, who won 62 games. Kawhi and Harden remained healthy throughout the year, and respectively, Harden was second in MVP voting, right behind Victor Wembanyama, who not only won MVP, but was the 4th player in NBA history to win Defensive Player of the Year and MVP in the same season. A dominant season for the Alien not only results in awards, but also wins. The Spurs are right behind us in the 2nd seed in the West, and I look at them as our biggest threat. In the East, Cat and the Knicks took care of business, winning 62 games in a weak Eastern Conference. The 2nd seed Atlanta Hawks went 48-34, and right behind them, the Bucks won 46 games. Jokic and the Nuggets start out strong, but an early injury derails their whole season. Jokic tears his MCL and only ends up playing 26 games, which results in the Nuggets being only 23-59. This makes free agency a lot more interesting. Does Jokic stay and tough it out and try to win another championship, or does he look to move elsewhere? Embiid has a bounce-back season and surprisingly plays 82 games, but falls short to produce like he did in previous seasons. He ends up averaging 18.5 points a game, which was less than his teammate Paul George. They end up being a lottery team at the end of the season. And the exciting Lakers core of Ayton, Reeves, Luka, and LeBron James all play 82 games respectively. However, this new Lakers tandem does not produce wins. They finished the season sitting at 34-48 and not only missed the playoffs, but missed the play-in entirely. And unfortunately, LeBron's farewell tour will not include a playoff run, as this is LeBron James' last season. With him leaving LA, this leaves the Lakers with a lot of questions to answer in this offseason's free agency. Kevin Durant and the Rockets missed the playoffs as well, only winning 1 more game than the Lakers. The Western Conference is extremely tough this year, and surprisingly, we take the number 1 seed and home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Also, Kawhi Leonard and James Harden both play well enough to earn all NBA nods. Harden making 2nd team while Kawhi made 3rd. So let's go ahead and get right into Game 1 of the NBA playoffs. We're going to be facing off with the Pelicans in the first round, hoping that we can take care of business in 5 games or less. So let's see how we play in Game 1. At halftime, we're struggling to put points on the board, only putting up 45 points in the first half. And Zion Williamson and the Pelicans find success playing good defense and getting easy buckets in transition. After a back-and-forth game, we finally make some ground in the 4th quarter. Down by 1 with 10 seconds left, Garland gets his first chance at a playoff game winner and sinks it. This shot could not only change our entire season, but this also gives us enough confidence to finish out the series in a 4-0 sweep. Kawhi has a monster round 1 with averages of 42 points, 6 rebounds, 4 steals, while shooting 61% from the field and 48% from 3. Going into round 2, we will be facing the Sacramento Kings. With Kawhi's hot start and an injury-free roster, I see the Kings being no problem at all. And we take Game 1, holding the Kings to only 77 points. And Game 2 is no different, winning the game by 34 points, and yet again holding the Kings to under 100. With James Harden playing well in both home games, this is a great sign moving forward. But Game 3 proves to be our biggest challenge yet. After a back-and-forth game, it's tied up with 14 seconds left. Let's hop in this broadcast and see what happens.
Here's Westbrook. Now DeRozan.
After DeMar's missed shot, we head into overtime where we cruise to an easy win. Kawhi Leonard leading the way with 42 points, playing 43 minutes in overtime, and putting up 33 shots while making 18 of them. Our backcourt struggles this game. Harden and Garland combined for 25 points while putting up 27 shots. After this close game 3, we continue to dominate the Kings, sending them home in 5 games in a gentleman's sweep. Kawhi comes back to earth this series and averages 26 points. And James Harden ends up averaging 25 points and 7 assists a game, despite his Game 3 performance. Russell Westbrook steps up and is the top scorer on the Kings this series, scoring 16 points a game while shooting an effective 55% from the field. And the $114 million trio of Sabonis, LaVine, and DeRozan get the Kings to a second-round series, but they fall short to produce and have an abysmal series. With combined stats that look like a typical Nikola Jokic stat line, they averaged more turnovers than assists combined, while shooting 42% from the field collectively. DeMar DeRozan especially struggles, only putting up 11 points a game while shooting 31% from the field. As we move on to the Western Conference Finals, we're matched up with the Minnesota Timberwolves, undoubtedly our biggest challenge yet, led by a hungry Anthony Edwards who's averaging 32 points throughout the playoffs thus far. And the Timberwolves were busy this season, trading DiVincenzo and Conley for Drew Holiday, giving Anthony Edwards the point guard that he's never had. Given Drew Holiday's leadership and experience, this looks like the perfect move that they needed to make to get over the hump to win the championship. We end up trading games 1 and 2, making the series 1-1 heading to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards is the guy so far, scoring 72 points through 2 games. And Naz Reid is playing well, averaging 22 and 12 while shooting 61% from the field. Having home court advantage, Minnesota wins both games on their home court. Our aging roster is starting to show cracks, and Harden and Kawhi are not meeting up to their all-NBA caliber season. And Draymond Green, who played every game this season, sustains an injury in Game 3. With a 3-1 lead, Anthony Edwards looks to take the next step in superstardom by securing a spot in the NBA Finals. In a win-or-go-home Game 5, we show some resiliency and keep it close going into the fourth quarter.
Here's Leonard. To take the lead.
McDaniels is such a disruptive defender. Inside, outside, he's a pest everywhere.
There's a 4-second difference from the shot clock and the game clock. Yes, sir! Make it in the layup.
That's an important bucket. Now they have to guard the perimeter tight.
McDaniels against Leonard.
From 17 feet out.
And so the Minnesota Timberwolves take the series and are moving on.
Well, for all reason, they're the deserving champions of the West. Higher organization, the front office, the coaching staff, the players, their families. A lot of sacrifices have to be made to get to this point.
Indeed.
Our first season comes to an end as the Timberwolves make it to the NBA Finals. Although we lost in a disappointing 5 games, I think a Western Conference Finals appearance in our first season in a rebuild is a win in my book. Kawhi Leonard puts up 38 points in the final game of his season, and this very well could be his final game as a Clipper as well. Throughout the playoffs, he scored much higher than he did during the regular season, averaging 32 points a game. And in typical fashion, James Harden disappeared when we needed him most, averaging only 22 points through the playoffs, well below his season averages. The backcourt of Harden and Garland ran into problems early and couldn't make the adjustments that they needed to make. Only thing left to do now is simulate the NBA Finals. It'll be the Timberwolves going up against the Knicks. Minnesota continues their dominant run through the playoffs, and they win 3 of the first 4 games in the series. Only one win away from winning his first NBA championship, Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves are eager to bring home a championship. Surprisingly, through 4 games, Julius Randle is leading the way, averaging 34 points while shooting 63% from the field. With their backs against the wall, New York keeps their championship hopes alive, winning the next 2 games, tying it up 3-3. Game 7 in Madison Square Garden proves to be a thriller. With the championship on the line, it all comes down to this.
Thought he was going to bury that one.
Here's Brunson. Jalen Brunson playing big right now.
A huge make by Jalen Brunson. Shiny.
I was able to listen in on what Chris Finch was going over with his team. He told his men he wants them to play with confidence down the stretch, saying, quote, "We've come too far to let this one slip away. Continue to work hard and find a way to close this out."
All right, appreciate it, Allie. Edwards. Oh, Edwards bringing the heat.
Wow, these are the moments that Edwards lives for. He is dynamite in the clutch.
And we'll have a timeout called by Mike Brown. Brunson against Holiday. Towns on the screen. Brunson. It's in!
Easy look when the defender isn't fighting over the screen.
Yeah, it's certainly worth it to disrupt the offense.
They've done it. The New York Knicks are the new NBA champions. Tremendous. What an incredible ride. Culminating in a championship.
The Knicks come back from a 3-1 deficit and win their first championship in 52 years. Karl Anthony Towns solidifies his legacy in New York, winning Finals MVP. Moving into year 2 with a depleted roster and plenty of salary cap space, this proves to be a busy offseason for us. We get started as soon as we can and start shopping our only real asset, Darius Garland, in the NBA draft. The Washington Wizards bite and end up giving us the 4th pick in a loaded draft. This trade leaves me conflicted. Do I rebuild for the future and go young, or do I take on salary and go for a win now approach? I shopped this 4th pick around, and to my surprise, the Rockets offer us a package built around the 4th pick and Draymond Green for Alfred Şengün. I take this deal hoping that Şengün can be my young superstar moving forward. After shopping what little resources we have, we don't find any trades to improve our roster. Having limited options in a weak free agency, a reunion of Kawhi and Harden seems to be our best option moving forward. Given his chemistry and desire to play in LA, he seems to be our best option at a 2-year, $108 million deal. In the last year of that deal, he will be getting close to $60 million at 38 years old. As much as I wanted to move on from these 2 superstars, they still got us to the Western Conference Finals. And now that I can retool the roster and free agency to my liking, I think we could build a contending team around these guys, especially with the addition of Şengün and keeping Zubac. Between re-signing Harden and acquiring Şengün, we don't have much flexibility going into free agency. So our first move is to get another guard to play alongside Harden. So we end up signing Grayson Allen to a full mid-level exception deal for 2 years. A proven winner and good defender, and a very underrated shooter, he'll play perfect alongside Harden. We also sign Andre Drummond, Gary Trent Jr., and Pat Spencer all to minimum deals to fill out our bench. At the end of free agency, we still have our trio from last year of Zubac, Harden, and Kawhi. Besides those 3, the other 12 players that fill up our 15-man roster are all brand new players to our team. As expected, our aging roster takes a step back this season, with Şengün being our franchise guy and our star player for the foreseeable future. We look to build around him, but in my eyes, this roster can compete for a championship this season. Other notable storylines this offseason include Joel Embiid's departure from Philadelphia, and he finds a new home with the Trailblazers. And the Los Angeles Lakers look to bounce back this season, going all in with the Luka Doncic Lakers, losing Austin Reeves in free agency, but they add Walker Kessler and Jakob Poeltl, 2 bigs who can stretch the floor and serve as lob threats. Moving on into year 2, we will have a starting 5 of James Harden, Grayson Allen, Kawhi, Şengün, and Zubac. With plenty of guys on minimum contracts who will be getting elevated minutes on our team this season, I see this being a hungry team with lots of vets who want to play well to earn themselves better contracts. Nothing left to do now but to sim to the end of the season, and let's see how we do. After a 10-10 start, we finished the year 48-34, which earns us the 6th seed in the Western Conference. Our former All-NBA superstars, Kawhi and Harden, both take a step back this season, both averaging their lowest points in over 10 years. With their drop-off, Şengün elevates his game and earns an all-star nod. He also makes All-NBA third team this year, the only player on our team to do so. And the MVP this season is Luka Doncic, averaging almost 10 more points than he did last season. Right behind him in MVP voting and winner of Defensive Player of the Year, Victor Wembanyama puts up another dominant season. And the New York Knicks continue their dominance, winning 2 more games than last year, going 64-18, behind Brunson's 25 points on 54% shooting. And the number 1 seed in the Western Conference is the Dallas Mavericks. Winning 58 games with a trio of Flag, Kyrie, and AD, they look like the team to beat in the West.
We play the Phoenix Suns in round 1. Not only do we lose the first game, but we also lose our star player Şengün, who gets injured in the first game. He will be out for 1 to 2 weeks. In Şengün's absence, there will be more minutes to go around for our veteran role players. Gary Trent Jr. is inserted in the starting lineup, and he is vital in a Game 2 victory.
An aging Kawhi Leonard leads the way, scoring 30 points and getting 6 steals in the win,
while Gary Trent Jr. scores 16 points while going 3 for 6 from 3. And Game 3 is no different, with Gary Trent Jr. scoring 25 points on 9 for 12 shooting.
And our second leading scorer in Game 3, surprisingly, is Scottie Pippen Jr. He scores 24 points, shooting an incredible 6 for 7 from 3. After what seemed to be a disastrous Game 1, we come back and win the next 3 games, going up 3-1. Our veteran-heavy roster saves the season and will be pivotal moving forward if we look to make a deep playoff run. Game 5 sees the return of Şengün, and we reinsert him into the starting lineup. Despite our 3-1 start without our star player, Şengün's first game back ends in a loss. That makes us 0-2 in the playoffs thus far when Şengün is in the lineup. Going into Game 6, it comes down to the wire in the 4th quarter. With hopes of ending this series in 6 games, let's see what happens.
Malawatch is checked in for Hartenstein. Green deciding where to go with it.
Game has carried over here tonight.
When someone is rolling like this, just keep feeding him. That's just great coaching.
Jalen Green forces a Game 7 in Phoenix, and we desperately need to use all the experience and leadership that we have to win this Game 7 and avoid a disappointing second season. And our prayers are answered, winning Game 7 in dominant fashion. Şengün, who has been struggling in the playoffs thus far, has his best game yet, scoring 32 points and getting 10 rebounds. Matched up against the Minnesota Timberwolves, the very team that sent us home last year, there certainly is animosity between these two teams. And in a back-and-forth Game 1, we fall short to secure the victory. However, in Game 2, we bounce back and beat the Timberwolves by 18 points. Zubac pulls down 17 boards and Şengün puts up 33 points, finally finding his groove in the playoffs. And to my surprise, it's 1-1 going back to LA. With home court advantage, we hope to at least win 1 game here. And in this pivotal Game 3, it comes down to the wire. In the last minute and 30 seconds of the 4th quarter, we go on an 8-0 run and secure the victory, exceeding far past my original expectations. We now are up 2-1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, last year's Western Conference champions, and we look to take a 3-1 lead in Game 4. But Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves have other plans. By the end of the 1st quarter, they have a double-digit lead, and they don't look back for the rest of the game. They win by 34 behind Anthony Edwards' 40 points. Nobody on our team has taken a real leap these playoffs. Our highest scorer being Şengün, who's only averaging 22 points. We have no real superstar to rely on. Instead, this team has relied on their veteran-heavy roster and their depth. We have the highest scoring bench throughout the playoffs so far, and we have 6 or more players who are averaging 10 or more points throughout the playoffs. This lack of a superstar becomes more relevant than ever because in the most important game of the season, Game 5, it's a close game going into the 4th quarter. But without a star player to close the game out, we lose by 5 points in a devastating loss. What looked like a dominant start to the series going up 2-1 has now turned into a total disaster, losing the last 2 games. It's times like these when you wish that you won the first series in less than 7 games, and I think the amount of minutes is starting to take a toll on my older guys. In a win or go home game, we unfortunately just don't have enough to beat the Timberwolves. And for the second year in a row, they send us home in the playoffs. However, in this year, it wasn't in the Western Conference Finals, but only in the second round. What can only be viewed as a disappointing season, we made do with what we had. And truthfully, as a personal challenge going into this rebuild, I really wanted to win a championship with Harden and Kawhi. Although we didn't win a championship, this duo played well together and stayed relatively healthy throughout both seasons. Not surprisingly, but this will be the last time you see these 2 guys on the same team together. But James Harden doesn't leave the Clippers, he leaves the NBA entirely. In a surprising move, he retires, leaving over $50 million left on the table. And in just last season, he was second in MVP voting. I'm glad he was able to retire with us, and he went out on his own accord. He will be missed, but I think it's only a matter of time before number 1 and 2 will both be hanging up in the rafters together. And as for the Timberwolves, they keep their momentum going into the next round and make another bid to the NBA Finals. And it will be a rematch of last year. They'll be going up against the Knicks. This time, Anthony Edwards hopes to take care of business and win his first championship. And he does just that, beating the Knicks in 5 games, getting his first ring. This truly is the year of Anthony Edwards in the NBA, and he caps off the season with a ring and Finals MVP. Although we came short this season, this looks like the fresh start that we desperately needed since we started this rebuild. So going into free agency, I'm of course looking to make some major moves. So let's get right into it. And our first chance to make any moves for the team is on draft night. First on our agenda is trying to get into the top 10 into the draft this year. We first shop around Zubac, but I'm not really comfortable with that right now. So instead, we trade up to the 9th pick and give the Hornets a package built around Andre Drummond, Duncan Robinson, and a first round pick. Because why wouldn't the Hornets say yes to this trade? Now that we have a lottery pick and plenty of cap space, we shop this pick around and see what we can find. So after looking around, there were plenty of options, but we go ahead and settle on Josh Giddey. We are in desperate need for a point guard and a facilitator, and he'll fit this role perfectly. He's only 24 years old and is due $50 million over the next 2 seasons. That's the only move we make on draft night. And going into free agency, we are highly ambitious. Not one, but 2 of the greatest players in NBA history are both looking for fresh starts. Nikola Jokic looks to revive his career elsewhere, because the last 2 years in Denver have been nothing short but embarrassing for the Joker. Despite getting the 2nd pick in the draft last year, they ended the year at the bottom of the West. We can only hope that we are on his radar, because adding him to our team would make us instant title contenders. As for the other superstar, Giannis on the flip side has seen mild playoff success. Albeit in a weak Eastern Conference, Giannis and the Bucks were still the 3rd seed last season. We have our eyes set on these 2, and hopefully we can add at least one of them to our roster. And on day 1 of free agency, here we are trying to offer Giannis the max possible contract that we can offer him. We have close to $75 million in cap space, so money really isn't a problem. And on top of that, we give him a no trade clause as well. But unfortunately, Giannis has other plans. He chooses to stay in the conference that he's been dominating for almost 10 years now, and he leaves the Bucks, the team that drafted him, and joins the Philadelphia 76ers. A swing and a miss for the Greek Freak. Now we shift our focus to Jokic. We give him the same treatment, offering him the most money we possibly can and a no trade clause as well. Despite offering almost $20 million more than the top offer, Jokic leaves the Mile High City and attempts to fill the shoes of Michael Jordan and signs with the Chicago Bulls for 3 years. Now that plan A and B are both off the table, I'm forced to improvise. The 2 best players left are Karl Anthony Towns and Donovan Mitchell. I don't think our team needs another big with Zubac and Sengun, and Donovan Mitchell being a high volume scorer might be exactly what we need. Not only that, but he's asking $15 million less than the max, which gives us around $30 million to play around with in free agency. We match Donovan Mitchell's asking price and throw a few $1,000,000 on top of it. Thankfully, he gladly accepts it and becomes the newest Los Angeles Clipper. An unproven superstar who is yet to put his stamp in NBA history, matched up with a franchise who always falls short, looks like the perfect tandem. With our back and front court solidified, we look to use that extra $30 million that we have to sign a starting caliber forward. I'm finding out the hard way, but players with solidified roles in the NBA have zero interest in playing with the Clippers. And a player who perfectly fits that role is Brandon Miller. After starting his career with the Hornets, he joins a team with championship expectations, and his contribution is needed as much as anybody else's. And just like that, we turned 36-year-old James Harden in his last year into our point guard and small forward for the foreseeable future. And if you combine Miller and Giddey's salaries, they're still making less than what James Harden would have made if he didn't retire.
Now that we've used up all of our cap space, we start to look for a player that we can sign for the mid-level exception, and I think we find the perfect player in Jordan Walsh. Since I started this video, we've always had struggles on the defensive side of the ball, and since we're still lacking depth at the forward position, I think he'll be the perfect guy to come off the bench and give us some energy while guarding 1 through 5 if necessary. And other new additions to our team include Marcus Smart and Brandon Clark. And we also retained 2 of our most vital players in last year's playoffs. Pippen Jr. has 2 years left on his deal with us, and Gary Trent Jr., despite having a fantastic season, he doesn't find the contract that he was looking for, so ultimately he decides to stay in LA for the vet minimum. And before the end of free agency, we make one more move. After much debate, I decide to sign Kawhi Leonard to a 1-year deal. Since we own the bird rights on him, we can sign him despite being over the cap already, so there's not much to lose here. We gain Kawhi Leonard, our former leader, for 1 more season, and hopefully we can solidify his legacy as a Clipper and win him a championship. So this is the finalized roster right after free agency. Not as much improvement as I wanted to see, but compared to last year's player progression, it looks like night and day. And both of our bigs, Zubac and Şengün, are both up for contract extensions. We signed Big Zoo to a 2-year, $26 million deal. And Şengün still has 2 years left on his deal, so we extend him for 1 more year. For under $35 million, it looks like a great deal for us. And for game 1 of our 3rd year of this rebuild, we finally have a starting 5 to be proud of. We have a starting 5 of Josh Giddey, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard, Alperen Şengün, and Zubac. And not only that, our bench has improved as well. We've never had a guy quite like Brandon Miller coming off the bench for us. He's easily a 20-point threat every night. And having a young, hungry, versatile player like Jordan Walsh, he'll fit perfectly on this team. So going into this year, it's championship or bust. There is no way around it. With all the time that I've invested into this is the team that I've been wanting to build since the start. So I guess there's nothing left to do now but to sim to mid-season, and let's see how we do. At the All-Star break, we're playing well so far. We have a record of 44-12, which is first in the entire NBA. But unfortunately, 44 games into the season, Alperen Şengün cracks his vertebrae and is out for 4 to 6 months. Also, quite a few players on our team are averaging career lows in points per game, but on the flip side are averaging career highs in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. Despite being the #1 seed, we failed to get even 1 All-Star nod. This is a first in NBA history, and hopefully our guys use it as extra motivation going into the playoffs. And at the end of the year, we finished the season 63-19, maintaining the best record in the NBA throughout the season. Josh Giddey plays especially well. He averages a new career high in points per game and assists. We extend his contract for 2 more years, and he will certainly be a key piece of our team moving forward. And the MVP is none other than Victor Wembanyama. And for the second time in this video, he wins MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. And for the 3rd year in a row, they're the 2nd seed in the West. Moving on to the playoffs, in round 1, we will be matched up against the Memphis Grizzlies. And miraculously, after missing 38 games, Şengün decides to suit up for the first game of the playoffs. He knows what's on the line, and he will be needed if we want to make a deep run in the playoffs this year. Going into game 1, I hope that we can cruise to an easy win and get some momentum moving forward.
And we do just that, scoring an incredible 145 points in the first game. Donovan Mitchell, our leading scorer, is responsible for 37 of them. This Game 1 blowout proves to be all the motivation we need to win this series, and we wrap it up in 5 games, sending the Memphis Grizzlies home. And in round 2, we will play last year's first seed in the West, the Dallas Mavericks. Led by a young and up-and-coming Cooper Flagg, this team is certainly a threat. And in Game 1 of the series, we get off to a hot start, and by the end of the first quarter, we're leading by 13 points. But despite this early lead, the Mavericks and Cooper Flagg come back and win the game by 18 points. After a shaky Game 1, we look to bounce back in Game 2. And by the end of the first half, we're playing well. We're up by 18 points, and with only 24 minutes left in the game, we look to secure our first victory in the series. And for the second game in a row, we blow a double-digit lead in the first half, and we lose Game 2 by only 2 points. Despite having home court advantage, we are now down 0-2 going into Dallas for Games 3 and 4. In these next few games, we will have to fight to keep our championship hopes alive. And in what looks like a must-win Game 3, we fail to have a lead even one time throughout the entire game. Jordan Poole, a new acquisition for the Mavericks this offseason, has been key for them in this series. He scores 33 in Game 3 and is pivotal in a debilitating victory. As if things couldn't get any worse for us, in Game 3, Brandon Miller sustains an injury and will be out for the majority of the playoffs. That is, if we make it past next game. Now going into Game 4, we are without one of our best players, and if we hope to keep our championship hopes alive, we will need an exceptional performance from our team going into Game 4. So far in this series, in my eyes, Cooper Flagg has by far been the MVP. He's been putting up great numbers on the offensive end, but his defensive stats are ridiculous. He's averaging over 3 steals and blocks per game. Going into Game 4, with the loss of Brandon Miller, our rotation will see elevated minutes, and in his absence, I hope that someone will step up and take over this game. If not, we will be sent home in 4 games, and this will be the most disappointing season yet. In the first half, it's a relatively low-scoring game, and neither team has found a real rhythm yet. And going into the fourth quarter, we have a slight lead, but Josh Giddey turns it on late and scores 12 in the fourth quarter, and he almost single-handedly keeps our championship hopes alive. With a little less weight on our shoulders, we still have no wiggle room for failure. But if we hope to come back this series, this is a good start. Now that we know what it feels like to win again, going into Game 5, we can feel a bit more confident. But in a repeat of Game 4, it's a close game going into the fourth quarter. But yet again, we are able to finish the game strong and secure another double-digit victory in the fourth quarter. What very well could be our players stepping up in the biggest moments of the season could also be the lack of experience for the Mavericks leader Cooper Flagg. This is his first deep playoff run, and the Mavericks will go as far as he takes them. And the same thing can be said about Donovan Mitchell. In year 11, he is still yet to make a conference finals appearance. We gave him the keys to our team this offseason, and in Game 6, we will need him to lead us to a victory. In a repeat of Games 4 and 5, it's been a back-and-forth game so far, but we managed to be up by 11 points at the end of the second quarter. This ends up being all for nothing though, because at the beginning of the third quarter, the Mavericks go on a 19-2 run. Despite their hot start, we are able to close the gap and still have a small lead going into the fourth. We are going back and forth with the Mavericks, fighting to stay alive, and in the last 2 minutes, it's only a 1-point game. Let's hop into this game and see if we can stay alive.
So with Davis sitting on the bench, here's the 5 for Jason Kidd right now. Big men on the floor for Middle Washington and Gafford. Irving is out there with Jordan Poole. And it's Flagg in at the small forward.
Big-time play there from Mitchell. Remember, he's been the go-to guy since his rookie year.
Irving.
Kyrie Irving is simply caught fire.
The biggest lead of the game, 15 points. Leonard looking over the floor. Here's Giddey. Takes the 3. The
It's off target. And here's the fast break. Poole leading the way. And he banks the layup in.
And you can't get a bigger bucket than that.
Well, that was 1-2. He wanted the ball. Nobody else was taking that shot.
The game has come down to this.
Huge possession.
And Teron Lue calls timeout. Coach clearly feeling the necessity to regroup with so much at stake here.
Plays run after a timeout. They often make the difference in a game.
Bays check in for Washington. Outside Leonard. Now 8 seconds separating the two clocks. Here's Zubac. Mitchell fires, and there's the three.
And he just seems to always deliver in the clutch, and he's got it going right now. That's who they want taking the big shot.
In terms of strategy here, any thoughts?
Big chance here to tie it with a bucket.
A critical possession, no doubt. We'll see what they draw.
Outside Irving. From outside. And he does not hit. And they go to the intentional foul.
Kyrie misses the game winner. And in a crazy turn of events, we come back from being at our lowest, being down 3-0, and we officially tie it up 3-3 going into Game 7. Can we make NBA history and be the first team to ever come back from a 3-0 deficit? We will certainly have the momentum going into Game 7, but not a single victory in this series has been easy for us. Donovan Mitchell leads the way for us, scoring 27 points. And Brandon Clark, who's been sneaky good all series, is our third leading scorer, putting up 19 points in 21 minutes. Time and time again, these cheap veteran players have been vital for us in the playoffs. And when Miller got injured, instead of adding someone else into the rotation, we've been running an 8-man unit. Since we've made this choice, our defense has flourished. And as for the Mavericks, other than Kyrie and Cooper Flagg, which we have covered, the third star in the trio, Anthony Davis, has been struggling significantly, only averaging 12 points and 5 rebounds while shooting an abysmal 42%. He has been sitting fourth quarters, and instead the Mavericks have been going with Lively, who is averaging a much better stat line and playing much more efficiently, shooting a historic 87% in this round. And it all comes down to this. If you made it this far in this video, I appreciate it more than you know. If you can't tell already, I put a ton of work into this video. And if you made it this far, I'm sorry to say, but you're in it for the long haul. You're just as much as a part of this team as I am. So in this win or go home Game 7, I need your support more than ever. And there's only one thing left to do. Let's get right into Game 7. And you simply just can't make this stuff up. At halftime, it is neck and neck in a tie game. Şengün is shining early and leads all scorers with 18 points. Donovan Mitchell has 4 points at halftime and is yet to shoot the ball one time. And at the end of the third, we are up by 3 points. 1 quarter left, only 12 minutes will decide the fate of both of these teams. And with a minute and a half remaining, we have a lead of 5 points. Let's hop right into this broadcast and see if we can close out the victory.
So the Mavericks 5 right now. We've got Anthony Davis, P.J. Washington out there with Sadiq Bey. Then it's Kyrie Irving, and it's Poole in at the 2. Giddy! The triple drop!
Like sometimes the threes can really boost your confidence, and I'm sure it'll do just that for Giddy.
Mavericks trail by 8. Irving fires! Rebounded by Giddy. And it's Giddy with the ball for the LA Clippers. They lead by 8. Biggest lead of the game. Lays it in easily. Finishing the game.
And we do the impossible, being the first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-0 deficit. It was looking bad through the first 3 games, but we stayed calm, adjusted our game plan, and just took it one game at a time. Josh Giddey shines late and helps us secure the Game 7 victory. But the best player and leading scorer in Game 7 is Şengün. He puts up a nice stat line and scores 33 points in 39 minutes. He plays well throughout the series, but the real star was Donovan Mitchell. He is able to make it to his first conference finals appearance, and the doubts of him being able to be the number one option on a championship team are slowly fading away. After our Game 7 victory, we are rewarded with a trip to the Western Conference Finals. And for the third time, we will be going up against undoubtedly our biggest rival in this video so far, Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have eliminated us in both seasons so far, so it's only right in order to go to the finals that we have to go through them. And this time we have home court advantage. So in game 1, we need to come out and set the tone early and get the victory. And whether it's due from fatigue or nerves, we failed to show up for game 1. And not only do we lose, but we lose by 26 points. Anthony Edwards has debatably the best game of his career and scores 43 points and only misses one shot in the entire game. After an embarrassing game 1, in game 2 we look to bounce back and avoid going down 0-2 for the second round in a row. And at halftime, we play well enough to have a double-digit lead, and we sustain this lead throughout the game with a final score of 110-97. Donovan Mitchell is the leading scorer for us, and he plays 41 minutes and puts up 29 points. And Anthony Edwards, who is unstoppable as usual, scores 43 points. So that makes it 1-1 headed to Minnesota. Since we lost a game at home, I would love to pick up a win here. And in Game 3, at halftime, everything seems to be going our way. We are up by 19 points, and we look like we are well on our way to getting an early lead in the series. But Minnesota is able to rally, and they make it a tie game late into the fourth quarter. This has been the story of our playoff run so far, not being able to close out games when having massive leads. But thankfully, in this game, we are able to close it out late and avoid a devastating loss. Although we haven't been able to find an answer for Edwards, we have been creating problems for the rest of the Timberwolves roster. Specifically, Julius Randle has struggled significantly so far. He has failed to contribute and is shooting an abysmal 29% from the field. So going into Game 4, if we could win both games on our opposing team's home court, that could be huge for us going into the finals. And in this pivotal Game 4 in Minnesota, after 3 quarters going into the fourth, it's a tie game. It's been back and forth all game, but thankfully in the fourth quarter, we are able to turn it on late and secure another double-digit victory. Now that we have a dominant 3-1 lead and home court advantage in Game 5, we are on the cusp of making the NBA Finals and one step closer to our goal of winning an NBA championship. It's a one-possession game with under 2 minutes left to play. Let's see if we can secure a spot in the NBA Finals.
It's intercepted. Setting the floor for the Timberwolves. We've got Naz Reid, Dillingham out there with Anthony Edwards. Then there's Rudy Gobert, and it's Baron J in at the 5. Here's Baron J. Now Edwards, and stolen by Clark. He's got a clear path, and a quick 2 as he powers it in.
And that could really be the game-changing moment.
I agree. What a turn of events.
If anyone wants to know where the momentum turned, that may have been it right there.
Yeah, you never want to let shots at the rim go uncontested.
Oh, he doesn't hit the first. Subbed in for Reed. And that trip coming up empty. Missing both. Los Angeles leading by 5. Mitchell, bullseye from distance.
Boy, how quick from the touch to the release for Donovan Mitchell. Look out, defense.
We finally get our revenge and beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in year 3. Not only do we get our get back, but we secure a spot in the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. In this series, our big 3 does most of the heavy lifting. Donovan Mitchell was the leading scorer throughout the series and played fantastic. But the guy who shined the most this series and won MVP was Şengün. We went all in on him last offseason, and now that we've made it to the NBA Finals, I can say it's been well worth it. And the only team that stands in the way of us and the Larry O'Brien is the Toronto Raptors. Throughout the years, they kept their core together of Ingram, Quickly, and Barnes. But in 2027, they were lucky enough to get the first pick in a loaded draft and picked Cameron Boozer. And in only 2 years, he is already making his first finals appearance. And looking at the stat sheet alone, he looks like the leader of their team. Barnes has been consistent throughout the 3 years of our rebuild, and in this season, he even got an All-Star nod. But unfortunately, 3 games ago, the Raptors lost Emmanuel Quickly due to an injury, and he will be out for the remainder of the playoffs. This is a massive blow to Toronto, who is already lacking depth at the guard position. If they have any hope of winning a championship, their trio of forwards will have to make up for the lack of playmaking. But either way, I know this will be a tough team to beat in a 7-game series. But I suppose there's nothing left to do now but to get right into game 1. And at halftime, we have failed to show up, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We have allowed 71 points and we are down by 19. And the second half is more of the same. We are lucky to get over 100 points. And this is exactly the type of start we were trying to avoid. Donovan Mitchell has one of his worst playoff games yet. He only scores 13 points on 14 shot attempts. Brandon Ingram, who has been struggling so far in the playoffs, has a fantastic game and scores 37 points. Being down 0-1 is not new territory for us. It seems like throughout the playoffs, in each round, we struggle with the first 2 or 3 games. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about losing game 1. And going into game 2 in LA, a win for us would be tremendous for our confidence. But if we lose this next game and go down 0-2 headed to Toronto, that could be too much for us to overcome. So going into this pivotal game 2, we need to show up and get the victory. But before we get into the second game, we get some much needed good news. After missing the majority of the playoffs, Brandon Miller is finally healthy and is ready to suit up. Although he didn't play great in his first few playoff games, he played well all season, so there's no need to go into a different direction. Hopefully the addition of Miller gives us enough momentum to secure the Game 2 victory. But there's only one way to find out, so let's get right into Game 2. At halftime, it's been a pretty back and forth game, and we are down by 2 points. So in the second half, we will need to rally if we have any hope of securing a championship. But thankfully, in the second half, we win quarters 3 and 4, and ultimately win by 19 points. Josh Giddey shines this game and has been playing well throughout both games in this series. And in Brandon Miller's first game back, he finds his rhythm early and has a great game. He scores 20 points and looks like the exact piece that we needed. So even though we won game 2 by almost 20 points, we cannot let our guard down. And at halftime, in a relatively low-scoring game, we are neck and neck at 48 apiece. It was a physical first half, but we were able to keep our composure and we pull off another double-digit victory. Our star duo of Mitchell and Şengün carry the team to the win. They score a combined 70 points. Donovan Mitchell scores 30 in his best game in the finals yet, but Şengün is the star, and he scores 40 points while only missing 3 shots. After the Raptors' dominant Game 1 performance, they've been struggling in the last 2 games. Specifically, their star duo of Barnes and Boozer have looked like shells of themselves in the last 2 games. Boozer has been dealing with an injury and has been struggling throughout the series, averaging less than 10 points and playing less than 30 minutes a game. And Barnes, on the other hand, has been scoring at a higher clip, but is shooting under 30% in the last 2 games, so it's not hard to see why they are down early in the series. Hopefully in the next few games, we can play with the same tenacity on both sides of the ball. So now that we are headed to Toronto with the possibility of bringing LA home a championship, it seems like there is more to play for now than ever. So let's hop right into this Game 4 and let's see what happens. At halftime of Game 4, we are struggling early and we are down by 7 points. But in the second half, we come back and we keep it close going into the fourth quarter. With 2 minutes remaining, we have a 2-point lead. This could be the make or break game of this series, so let's hop right into this broadcast and let's see what happens.
Here's Giddey. 1:46 left in the fourth quarter of this one. Here's Leonard. No good. Looking who they've got. They've got Donovan Mitchell. Ivica Zubac is out there with Alperen Şengün. Small forward position. Now here's Leonard. Following the miss by Scotty Barnes. Here's Giddey. Şengün, stolen by Robinson. Leonard with the steal. Mitchell gets it inside.
And you can't get a bigger bucket than that.
He's taking that shot.
Now Barnes. And he misses the J. Giddey. And a great assist as they pick up D2 on the fast break.
And I love going to Giddey there at 6'8" with his skill. Josh can get that one off anytime he wants.
Now here's Barnes. And the layup is off.
Wow, what a rough second half for him shooting the basketball. Maybe you adopt a pass-first mentality at this point.
He drops the first one, and that makes it a 7-point lead.
And people still talk about Mitchell being undersized. I think he's proven his...
And so Los Angeles takes the win, and now they're sitting on a commanding 3-1 lead. They've grabbed this series by throat grip.
And Kevin, I don't...
We pull it off and we win both games in Toronto and get a commanding 3-1 lead in the process. We played well at the end of the fourth, and the Raptors simply look like they lack a veteran closer. Josh Giddey is the MVP of the game, and he is our leading scorer and gets a double-double with 10 assists. Donovan Mitchell has been struggling this series, but luckily Giddey and Şengün have stepped up and they've been playing well. Now that we are up 3-1 and headed back to LA, it seems like everything is falling into place. Only one game stands in the way of us and a championship, so we will need one more big performance from our squad. And I guess all we can do now is jump right into Game 5. After the first quarter, Toronto's up by 2 points, but in the second, we finally find our rhythm and we hold Toronto to only 19 points. At halftime, Donovan Mitchell has 18 and is leading the way for us. And one of my favorite players in this entire rebuild, Gary Trent Jr., has a great first half and puts up 11 points on 50% shooting. And as we go into the fourth, we sustain our double-digit lead. And as the quarter dwindles down, it is becoming clear that the Toronto Raptors season is going to come to an end. We are just simply too experienced for this young Raptors team. But that can only mean one thing. Your Los Angeles Clippers are the 2028 NBA champions. After 3 long years of rebuilding this team, and after a long bumpy playoff road, it all pays off with a spot in NBA history and an NBA championship.
And the Los Angeles Clippers are your new NBA champions. All the travel, all the practices, all the meetings, all the games, wins and losses, the emotion, the exhaustion, culminating into tonight.
And whenever you win the NBA championship, there's a level of accomplishment and excitement that really can't be matched. But pretty amazing to have accomplished this goal.
And after 3 years, we win the Los Angeles Clippers their first championship in franchise history. Our longest tenured player, Zubac, wins his first championship with us, and Kawhi Leonard comes back for one more year and wins his third NBA championship against the very team he won a championship with. And ultimately, this will be Kawhi Leonard's last game. What was undoubtedly an all-time great NBA career, he goes out as an NBA champion and contributes at a high level in his last NBA game. He will be remembered highly in Clipper history, and for his leadership and dedication to this team, he is rewarded by having his jersey retired and hung up in the rafters, only the second player in franchise history. Donovan Mitchell, in his first finals appearance, comes away as an NBA champion. He completely changes the trajectory of his entire career, but he is not the only player to do so, because Şengün at 24 years old wins his first championship. And looking at the stat sheet alone, he looks like he is deserving of Finals MVP. But that honor goes to Josh Giddey. He was our most consistent player and showed up in the most pivotal games. We took a risk on him, and now he looks like a young emerging superstar who is certainly a cornerstone of our franchise. Well, that about wraps it up. What a journey that was. I hope you had fun. Like I said previously, I put a ton of time into this video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe if you haven't already, and go ahead and leave me a comment if you have any ideas or teams that I should do in the future. I already have a bunch of good ideas, and if you are patient with me, I promise I will have more videos in the future. I'm not really making this video for views or attention or anything. I just have a big passion for filmmaking, and I'm also a huge basketball fan if you can't tell. But as I said, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching. Peace.